So, in a desperate attempt to stop YouTube from brainwashing me into one-sided biased views that only give viewers' perspective on one side, which is incredibly annoying, I have chosen to watch The Chosen. And it's just, I always have to point out that when it comes to Andrew Tate, there are people on both sides. There's people defending him, there's people attacking him. It's very much even. But when it comes to Diddy, 99% of the videos seem to be against him, and only one or two are for him, and it's incredible. This shouldn't be allowed. This stuff shouldn't be allowed. YouTube should not. I liked YouTube because I liked how if you type in anything, you could get any video, but it just doesn't seem like that now. Now it seems like they're controlling the search engines, and they're only allowing people to find certain videos that they want people to watch, and it just feels way too controlling. Anyway, I've chosen to watch The Chosen, which is something that I don't know. I don't know how long it's been on for. Actually, I was going to look at that before I made the video. How long it's been on for. But I want to talk about. Let's type it in. Season 1. Just typing in Chosen Season 1. So I wanted to know what date. 2017, so it came out about 2017, which I'm not too sure if the people who wrote this know about it, but it has come to my attention because that guy I've been following, he was kind of supposed to be an extra on it and then kind of got cancelled. But I liked the Wolfpack t-shirt that one of the guys was wearing, so that is the reason why I've decided to watch it. Because I felt like that was a sign that they're not actually in favour of Jesus. And because they're not in favour of Jesus, then I guess that's more on my side. Now, I have been talking about, I don't know when I started talking about it, maybe it was from 2017, but I have been talking about how I want to get all the scenes of Jesus and reenact them, but then retell them how I would tell them. So everything that he says is basically things that I don't really agree with. You know, all his views and perspectives on the Bible and on God, you know, they're wrong. I'm God. If he's saying that you should just rely on God and just trust in God, you know, I'm God and I can't even help myself. So how can I help any of you? You know, he's not really speaking for me. He's just misleading people and getting them to believe lies because it sounds better, and telling people that, you know, the poor will be helped and stuff. And I just, you know, I know that some people are deliberately born poor because they have an ability to connect with the Spirit, and the Spirit wants them to work harder. So by putting them into some sort of poor background, it makes them work harder, and eventually they will build up some sort of business and actually achieve without needing help from family. I know there are some people in that kind of situation, but yeah, I wouldn't tell the poor to not try or not work hard to fulfill whatever they want to fulfill, their goals. But yeah, I do think that if you are born into a poor family and don't achieve anything in your life, it's probably because you don't have a very good spiritual connection, and or you were deliberately given that family because you're not actually one of the chosen. You're not actually a very good person. I know a lot of the times it's not because of that, it's just because you were given parents who haven't had that many lives. If you haven't had that many lives, you're going to be given parents that haven't had that many lives, and that is the reason why I've got the shitty parents that I've got. I think when I was born in 1987, I was living my second life, and I think my guess is now that when I was around 12 or around 14 when Aaliyah died, I think my soul number was taken, and I think it was managed to back time, and then I lived a life as Aaliyah and then died and then jumped back into my body. I don't know how. I don't know what I've done, because when I ask the question, who came first, me or Aaliyah, I feel like I want to say me, but then I also feel like I want to say her too. And it's interesting how up to the age of 14, you know, I went to Sylvia Young Theatre School. I really wanted to be a singer, and I was, all the things that Aaliyah accomplished in her life were things that I wanted to accomplish when I was around that age. And that dream that I had almost felt like I just lived someone else's life, and it was just flashbacks of things that she did. But yeah, it almost felt like I had lived someone else's life and then just jumped back into my body. And because when I asked the question, who came first, me or her, I feel like I can't get an answer. And so because of that, I feel like technically I was second. And then somehow a soul, as it gets changed, it's like a digital code. Like everything has a number. Everything has DNA. But your soul too is just part of the matrix, and how your soul changes and evolves. It's formed. There is some sort of spiritual digital code for it, and this is, when you die, that spiritual code gets remembered, and then it gets put into when your soul goes into another body. That soul is made up of something. It's made up of ones and zeros. Everything is made up of ones and zeros, including in the spiritual realm, and I feel like that's kind of like, it's like a DNA code, only it's a soul code, and so I feel like my soul code for Aaliyah was actually taken somewhere at a midpoint in my life. That's when I was 14. So that's kind of what I think. But yeah, that's the reason why my parents are pretty shit, because I was living my second life, and I think my dad's on his third life, and my mum's on her first life, and therefore, if you're born into a wealthy family, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be a good person, because technically you were given the family because the matrix recognizes similarity. If you're living your 10th life, you'll probably be given parents who have also lived their 9th or 11th life or 10th life. There'll be parents that are similar to you. Now, just because they are similar to you, that doesn't mean that you're better, but it does mean that you're older, and therefore, if you want to know why there are bad people that are born into rich families, I feel like they've been given more opportunities because of their soul just being older. Why should the matrix favor someone who's lived one life as a human over someone who's lived 10 lives as a human, and part of their lives, I'm watching this Chosen film, and it's a reminder of how horrible life was 2,000 years ago, to actually have nothing to do. Like, I feel like I have nothing to do, but that's not true. I can fill the room with Halloween decorations, which is what I've done today. I can go to the parks. There's lots of parks. There's lots of there's a cinema and gym, and there's hygiene and a huge selection of foods. And if I wanted to, I could go back to massage. I was actually tempted to go to, just thinking maybe I should, but I'm not going to. But if people don't come and talk to me next spring, then I probably might even start going to massage. Not because I want the money, but just because I'm bored. But there is a lot of things to do, and I'm looking back at the Chosen, and I'm thinking I didn't go through any of that. I haven't suffered these kind of lives, and therefore, why should a new soul be favoured over souls that have already gone through that, have already been a poor person, have already experienced the prison cells? I think I'm on episode 5 now, where they put John in a prison cell, and it's just it feels stupid. If someone can't pay tax and you put them in prison as a punishment for not paying tax, I just feel like, well, why would you do that? Surely, if you want money from them, you turn them into a slave and make them pay tax through forced labour or something. You don't just stick them in a jail cell for doing nothing. And then I'm just thinking, well, that's exactly what they do in America. And England, everywhere. They put people in jail, and then that's it. They just kind of use them as a way of, the taxpayer has to actually pay money to support them and house them and look after them and feed them. Whereas if you want money off people, you force them into work. You force them into some sort of, I don't know, workhouse, and say work jail or something, and you do something like that. And but yeah, I'm going through it, and I noticed, because that one thing I would want to do, and I think I talked about it in 2017, where I take clips of things that Jesus said and Jesus did and things that Jesus promoted, and then I change it and say, actually, I don't agree with this. This isn't the truth. Because he didn't say that much, I think they're going to try and spread it over as many episodes as possible. And because we're on season 5 now, I've heard, and I'm on season 1, so I'm assuming that they're going to try and draw it out. But I'm pretty sure this might be a good place to work with if I wanted to recreate the scenes. Well, technically they're recreating the scenes. Okay, they're adding a lot more stuff into it, and we can take out that bit, or I wouldn't include that bit in my discussion of Jesus. But yeah, I'm watching it because I want to analyze how they've done it and think if I was to take these scenes of Jesus, which are supposed to be all like reenactments of things that he said and for things that he taught and stuff, and I think it's supposed to be an accurate account. And okay, I don't really agree with any of it, but I think Christians would watch it and think, yes, I agree with it. I have noticed that there are a couple of insults. Just now in episode 5, there was a part where he said that he's going to someone's wedding, and there was someone there, and he thought he's not going to respect me because he hit me when I was a kid, or something like that. But I feel like something like that kind of it belittles him a little bit. But yeah, really, I want to focus on the parts that are supposed to be like reenactments of the Bible and say how I don't agree with them. They had the fishing reenactment in the scene, episode 4, I think, or 3, where he picked out fish, lots and lots of fish, and then put it in a boat. I mean, really, I'm just looking at that fish thinking, oh, poor fish. But yeah, because I have fish, and I kind of like fish, but yeah, I also eat fish, I know that. I had tuna today, actually. Anyway, he, in that one, the quote was, see these fish, like a fisherman, you take up all the fish, and then you throw the ones the bad fish back into the sea. And I'm sure fishermen do throw fish into the sea. Well, what's a bad fish? I don't even know. I'm sure they do throw some fish out, but I'm sure if you're desperate for money, I'm sure even if a fish is fairly small, it still has a certain amount of value to it. I know some fishermen, if they're very good at fishing, they do throw, that if they've got too many and they want to focus on the bigger ones, they might throw the smaller ones back in. But yeah, I thought that was a bad teaching, because it's like, just because they're smaller, that doesn't mean they're bad fish. I mean, there's plenty. If you're poor and you're struggling to, like a lot of these fishermen were poor and they were struggling to pay bills and stuff. Even a small fish has value. So, to the idea of just throwing them into the sea, and also he was catching the fish, and he was kind of saying that, like, the good people at the end of the age, the world, the people are going to be sorted out by the angels, and the bad fish are going to be casted into a fire flame. They're going to be thrown out and burnt, basically. They're going to be burnt out alive. And that's what he said, and it's not true. The angels are singers and celebrities. Can you actually imagine Madonna getting people that she thinks are bad and literally casting them into a burning fire of pit? This is not reality. What he was preaching is something that's not going to happen. He preached that, like the fish that get sorted out, some get tossed back into the sea and some stay on the boat, But it's also interesting because the ones that are on the boat, they're dead. The ones that are tossed into the sea, well, they get to be alive. If the bad ones get tossed into the sea, well, that's actually a good thing, because they're still alive, they still have their life. And so he was basically referring to the bad people as being like the ones that go tossed into the sea, and the good ones are the ones that, the fishermen can sell and use and stuff, but they're dead. So in that way, he's almost teaching the opposite. The good ones are the ones that go back into the sea and get to live their life and continue, and the ones that he would consider the good ones, they're the ones that are actually dying. So I can take scenes like that and actually explain my message through it, which is that it's an inverted message. Although I'm also saying that there's lots of lies in it. So the lie part that he's preaching in that is that the angels, which are the singers and celebrities, are going to cast the bad people into a fire pit and burn them. That's not going to happen. No one's going to be burnt alive. Suicide is one thing, but burning people alive is not something that any of the singers are going to do. So there's a lie in his teaching there, and it's also an inverted teaching, because he's kind of was making out that the bad ones are the ones that the fishermen don't want, whereas really the bad ones are the bad ones, the bad people represent the fish that the fishermen do want, because they want to kill them and sell them and eat them, basically. But yes, and it kind of reminds me of that guy. The reason why I was starting to watch The Chosen is because what's his name? I've forgotten his name. I've forgotten it. That one that I made a video out yesterday. Ruslan. Yeah, he was going to play the role of a merchant, and he was very proud to be a merchant. And his line, which was like 2 words, his 2 words were going to be more fish, and yeah, that was kind of funny, because maybe that's what the Chosen film know that they're trying to do, which is to catch more fish, people that are going to be trapped in this sort of web. And Ruslan has quite a big following, so people might be more interested to watch The Chosen because of his promotion. I mean, I know I'm only watching it because of his promotion, so it was interesting how he was wanting to be a merchant. And the first episode in series 1 happens to be where there's these 2 guys that couldn't pay taxes, but they'd made a deal with one of the higher people up, one of the people that are higher up, to catch merchants. So he was like betraying them, but I'm not too sure what the betrayal was about, but I think he was catching people that weren't doing their job or something, and reporting them or something. But there was supposed to be like a spy to help catch the merchants if they're not doing something right, and that's the reason why they were let off their tax, because of that. But it is interesting because this guy's promoting himself as being a merchant, because he made a trailer of how he was the merchant. But yeah, the film didn't actually want him in the episode, but that was interesting. But yeah, I think I'm just making this video because I want to say that I would like to. I think these are good scenes. If I was to take these scenes and then just retell them, I think they're portraying the scenes well enough for me to kind of reanalyze. I just need to take away the backstory. Obviously it's a film, it's a series, so they need to try to make the backstory as to how Jesus ends up in these all positions. But yeah, Jesus is kind of a small character in all of the episodes, because I guess he doesn't actually say that much in the Bible, or he does, but I think they want to try and spread out his scenes throughout the Bible and stuff. But yeah, I would like to take these scenes as the recreation scenes and then just retell them and say how I see it. And of course, it's not just my view. Sometimes there's loads of different views. I can say that, like the Romans, in a way, I think the Romans just represent the people with the money and the power, and the Pharisees were like, that the Messiah. Some of them were like prophesying that the Messiah is going to turn against the Romans. And I'm not against the Romans. If it's a choice between the Pharisees or the Jews or the Romans, I'm sticking with the Romans. Why? Because when I think, what have the Jews actually done, like the group of people? To be fair, I went to Jerusalem and there was some really nice buildings there. But come on, Rome, they've done so much more. The massive Colosseums and the huge amounts of Roman architecture. I'm a big fan of architecture, and the Romans have made such a massive difference in the world. And the Jews, but the thing that you most remember the Jews for is the Holocaust, and that's not a very good thing. And I need to work with the ones that have the power and have the money. So if Jesus wants to be on the side of the Jews, that's fine, but that's not the side I'm on. I'm on the side that have the money and the power. Although technically a lot of Jews have money and power, so it's not about me insulting any specific group, but I would rather help the ones that have the money, even though I hate them. At the end of the day, money is power, and I can't do anything unless I have help, and technically help from a bunch of prisoners is not going to do anything. I could, I could go around Birmingham telling everyone that I'm Christ. Most won't believe, but if I'm able to get people to believe, they can't do anything. I need to work with the Romans, or the ones in power, the ones that have the money, the ones that, if you look at this film, the Romans are the ones that have nice outfits and armor and protection. I would much rather be on their side, even though they're not very nice people. They actually have weapons, and they seem smarter, so I'm not on Jesus' side. But yes, if I was to get these scenes and retell them, I would change everything. Even the part where the Messiah is supposed to go against the Romans, I'm against that, because the Romans are the ones that have the wealth, and I have to I have to stick with what I have to win.